Okay, good morning everybody. My name's Michael Tomkins. I've been in the media industry for roughly 25 years. I've previously held positions at Channel 9 or the 9 Network, Red Bee Media, now Ericsson, and also CTO for Fox Sports. Okay, so the challenge for me moving forward and what I want to talk about today is where is media, what are we doing, how are things progressing? And so I want to start by throwing out the challenge or the claim and say, you know, sport is a real-time experience. It was the first ever reality TV. So we're all into our reality TV now, but it always came second. And we always started there because we couldn't record originally. So basically we had to be real. Unfortunately, we didn't have any data back then, so it was a different experience. That's what we want to fix. Our viewers today, now they're on the move. You've got lots of phones, tablets, and really we can't keep up with them. The pixel size, the shape, all those sorts of things. Really, so what are we targeting now? You've still got HDMI 1, we're still selling and buying lots of really big screen TVs, but realistically, we actually want contextual views. We want to target the best available screen, not the big screen anymore. That way, you know, there's more eyeballs, better experience, contextual video. That's what we're really trying to get to. In order to do that, really, story-based production is the way to go. So, you know, we always wanted to tell a story. It's never been about, here's a piece of vision. It's, we're selling a message. That's what we do. We sell a story. People buy into the story. There's always emotion. There's something there that takes people along. That's what draws people in. So it's all about story-based production. Hasn't changed. And we want to do all this, realistically, through aggressive simplicity. The simple reason to do this is really cost, the size and scale of what we're doing, and we have the technology now. We didn't have it before, so now I can give you exactly what you need, when you need it, on the device you want, in a consumable fashion, so I'm not going to, you know, destroy your data rates. That's what we're trying to do. So we're here to help. And we need to evolve and change in order to do that. Okay, so traditional broadcast itself, let's talk about that. I've been in broadcast for over 20 years. When I started, we had basically quad tape machines, 16mm film. Didn't take too long, but it went away. 15 years now. Digital Betacam, again, didn't last. 10 years, server-based, and so on. We just kept moving. 5 years non-linear, IP streaming in VOD, which is what everybody talks about now, and now we're actually into IP in the cloud. Is it really there? Yes and no, but again, there are things that we can do to augment or take the journey. Time is now to move. So, really, where are we going? And for me, it's all about the self-assembling channel, which is basically the actionable insights through data and modeling. So in terms of sport or reality TV, I'm giving the viewer exactly what they want, contextually where they want, on the device that they're using automation and orchestration. So people can't do that. I can't generate the volumes, I can't do it in any reusable fashion. So that's what we're targeting. So effectively, YouTube, it's a VOD platform. Netflix, we're getting there, but we want it targeted to special audiences and we want it real time. So the next phase to me looks something like this, which is realistically a big yellow box. So the yellow box is really the engine, which is still a TV station if you like, or an IP cloud engine. We still have our inputs or our ingest, and we have basically our layers across the bottom. For the first time, we're actually really connecting the business to the machine. So instead of having a factory and basically orders coming in, the computers, the spine is actually driving the content. So we're delivering basically just in time as required contextually to what the audience wants. Previously, I was involved in building a brand new media facility. Now, we could argue that it was a traditional TV facility or we could argue it was something new. So for me, I'll make the claim that it was 1/3 traditional broadcast, 2/3 new media. And the reason for doing that was we were moving into the new world. It was the next generation of what we were trying to do. So this is the slide that depicts exactly what that is. It's my base thinking, and it's what took us there. So I define television broadly into 4 categories, which is ingest, create and edit, use and distribute, and archive. And that's basically the same since TV started, and we're taking that into the next generation because it's still a story-based production, what we're trying to do. Okay, but at the edge here we have lots of ingest, then we have basically lots of processes where we create content, then we move it so that we can basically play it out for broadcast, and then we archive, we keep copies because we like to replay old content. Down the bottom here, we have lots of services coming in now where we're delivering and doing different things. So in order to go forward, what I did is I kept my ingest, but I added metadata to it. I created a digital core where basically everything came through was software defined. We started to create the concept of a spine where, with being data driven, with information flowing through, we could use it to augment and make decisions. So basically, to do this, we followed the data flows. Due to time, the biggest issues we had were integrating the business systems. So we're still in the old model, the factory model, where we've got the factory producing all the content and pushing it out, and we've got the business sitting over here, which we enhanced and we made better, but we still weren't there. We couldn't do it in the time frame. So we chunked it up and did what we needed to do, put the digital core in so that we could then move to the next phase. What I came up with is broadcast abstraction. Now this is done with MuleSoft as the cloud layer or as the ESB layer. So what you see here is basically I've defined broadcast on one side and new media as the other. I actually don't like the term broadcast anymore. I'd rather just stay with media, but for the markets that we're dealing with, we need to talk about broadcast and we need to talk about new media. It keeps it simpler for people to understand. But the point of it is that we moved the control layer to the middle. So in the previous slide, the business systems were down here and the core was up the top. Now what we've done is we've put the business systems right in the middle. So the business systems are now driving directly broadcast and directly new media through a rules engine and through the ESB layer. So basically what we've got is a spine going through the middle, a nervous system, which allows us to be metadata driven. And we go through abstraction layers to target different ways of working. So broadcast has very stringent rules around all sorts of things, specifically, copyright, advertising, branding, those sorts of things. New media has a totally different set of requirements. However, the content is the same. So we want to take that content, use it for broadcast in the way that which we have to now based on contracts, and then we want to repurpose it for new media however we can as the new model depicts. So the interesting thing here is these orange boxes, they're the things that slow us down. These are our traditional departments. So the departments themselves do a really wonderful job and they've been doing the same thing for a very long time. And we're happy with that. But under the new world, basically all their roles change. So they don't need to do the tasks that they were doing anymore. So asset management typically hit record, basically log basic metadata around what a program is and then pass it on to the next person. But under the new world, automation is driving the record. So they don't actually do that anymore. And then the information that they would normally add is added through the statistics department. So that way we're using statistics to create metadata to drive the outcome. So in a football game, there's typically 2,500 stats. Those stats actually drive the outcome. They drive the broadcast, they drive the graphic systems, and they drive the creation of media for the new media platform. So fundamentally, you've got two people doing different roles that they weren't doing before. Statistics are now more important and they're in the driver's seat. Asset management still have a function, but it's a different function. Master control used to switch all feeds in and out of the building. And they do that still, but it's under automation. And we log all the technical information to see if there's any problems so that we can augment and we can change. So their role has changed. Also, we used to build master control really big so they could see everything coming in, everything coming out. Now, master control is smaller. We're augmenting. So the information that they see is contextual. It's no longer absolutely everything. So it doesn't look as complicated anymore. Big mind shift for them. Presentation, still similar, always been under automation for the last 20 years. But they have more information and they have more things coming off of them. So one of the interesting things about presentation now is that you have your normal presentation person putting out on a channel, which is great. But that automation system is also now controlling new media. It's turning streams on and off on the web. It's helping deliver clips. You've got basically advertising coming from different platforms. So their role is changed, it's different. And then you've got technology who are affected probably the most because they're used to basically build it once, it never changes, and they know exactly what to do when something goes wrong. In this world, it's all software defined. Everything's changing. The windowing, the volumes, all sorts of things change, and they do it dynamically. So the skill set from a traditional engineer has changed. Now we're into a DevOps type style of engineer, much more software defined. So this whole network application is really what we're trying to get to, where basically it's the spine and leaf. So all the information comes into the nervous system and flows down the spine and then goes out to the processors, which basically make the decisions. Okay, so how does it really work? So here we have this top section here, which I call the agility layer, or the agility engine is what I came up with, which is basically all my business on one side, all my broadcast applications on the other. They never touch. They're separated through two ASBs. And the reason for that is one's a broadcast, or one's a media layer, and one is a corporate layer. So the corporate and the media have to be separate for security. Also, it gives me a lot more fluidity. So, coming in from the edge, I have all my sources coming in live. I then come through a routing engine, which is basically under automation. So because I have a plan or a schedule that says what's going to happen when, I come in from my source, I'm expecting it to come from a source, I add metadata as I go through. So I have metadata enrichment all the way through. So at every point where there's a decision point, I do metadata enrichment, which allows me to know where my production is up to, what I can change, how things move, if there's a problem. Because I'm talking about sport, I'm not only bringing the video information in, which is important, but I've already linked it to the ground, the teams, the players, and the stats feeds that are flowing off that. So basically, I'm adding metadata all the way through. And because I know to expect what's going to happen, and I know that I'm coming in from a ground with certain feeds, with certain content, and I have the rights information, I can immediately send it out to streaming new media, or I can send it out to broadcast. So again, it's going exactly where it needs to go, story-based production without human intervention. That's really the key to this. Why would you do that? It sounds really complicated. And in some ways it is. It's software defined. You've changed the world. It's very complicated conceptually, I would say. It's quite simple when you get into it. But the reason you do it is, this is my view of a TV station. So typically, you used to have a bunch of engineers and a bunch of people running around, and when something broke, you didn't really know what was going to happen. What we have here is a real-time dashboard showing the percentage utilization of every piece of equipment within the TV station. So if I dropped a feed coming from a sports ground, I could actually see it here. Not only would I see it here, but I would know the impact. So I'd know what channel it was going to be impacted. I would know how I could reroute, and I could do that through software. I'd know what my digital impact would be. I would know my SLAs on going out to other platforms where I might be passing it on as a white label product. So in terms of real time knowing exactly what's going on, basically I can plot percentage utilization of all equipment, which is good for CapEx and OpEx. I can measure my SLAs to make sure I know what's going on. And mostly I'm in a position where I can predict something going wrong. So when something fails, I can change it in software 90% of the time. Okay, so another view of the world. This is very similar. So this is all about efficiency, this one. So again, comes back to my digital product. So thinking digitally, I've got basically all my information coming in. It's passing through my ESB. It's running basically my whole business, and this is just looking at the digital side. But one of the things that you think about on the digital side is, how does that actually work? Broadcast has been around for a very long time, so we have really rigorous methods, and we're quite efficient. So what this depicts is, how efficient am I with my digital content? So up here I have my two edit systems, which are editing and creating content, so I can see how efficient they are. It's kind of interesting. Am I using the right tool? Is the tool fit for purpose? Should I change the tool? Is one long form? Is one short form? The other thing that's really important is the blue. So the blue is what is actually delivered on platform to the CDN, which means, so I've taken in content, I've done the edit, I've done everything I need, I've transcoded, and I've moved it all the way through to the edge. But the blue section is, has it been set public? So what I found was, originally when we did this, something like 30% of content was created and pushed all the way through the system and never set public. So it was never usable by the public. Something will always die on the cutting room floor. Always will and should. But should it be 30% or should it be 5 or 10%? That's where your efficiencies come in. And then delivery-wise, I'm looking at the types of clips that I'm sending. So I can say, based on metadata, what type of clip, what type of sport, when did it arrive. I can even look at views if I feed information back the other way. So here you can see basically my delivery based on sport, a hole in the middle. Guess what? Nobody was rostered. Therefore, nobody was actually approving. So again, comes back to, how can I make it better? How can I orchestrate? How can I make it more efficient? How do I give the client, the customer, a better outcome, a contextual outcome? So the end game here is what we're talking about. So I talk about self-assembling channels. Self-assembling channels to me are, I have a scheduler at the top, and then I drop to all my playlists, my traditional broadcast lines. But where I used to only talk about broadcast and what that single feed was, it's a game of football, it's tied to, it's a game of football. It's this type, it's NRL. It's these two teams, these are all the players, these are all the stats. It's all linked all the way through here. So the concept is TV everywhere, you know, story-based production. So I come out of this with all this information and I feed into two real-time observation areas. So the way I think of real-time observation areas is we have a technical observation area, so that if I've got flashes of black, high audio, something that the customer doesn't want to see at home, I actually flag it because I've got systems which actually log that along the way. So basically I'm creating a timeline with all the information, adding metadata, enriching as we go through. So therefore, I know technically that my content is good or bad. I then look at social media and basically go out to social media and say, what are people talking about? Most people are tweeting and looking at different content online, but when it's live sport or reality, they're doing exactly the same thing. So what I've started doing is taking the reality or the social context and applying it back over my timeline to use it to drive the clip creation. So therefore, I've got a clip, I've got a game which is, you know, an hour long, 60 minutes long. And then there was a big tackle or a big hit 3 minutes in. Now typically I would use an editor to go through and create clips or a highlights reel. Using this method, I can take the input from the social plus the editor and basically auto-create the clip. So I'm self-generating clips based on social media, which is actually quite accurate. And then, because I've got my technical model, I say, actually, they were really interested in that clip, but it's got flashes of black. Don't use that. Find another camera angle, find another way. And I can feed back from my web after it's published. If something's actually trending, I can auto-create more clips because we've already got the information. So all these basically feed into a canonical database. And then afterwards, to tune it, I feed back in non-real-time data from basically a non-real-time observation area. That lets me tune the model because the model itself is a rules engine hanging off the back of MuleSoft. So everything's flowing through MuleSoft. I have rules which are defining what to do. I'd like to get to an AI state. I'm not there yet, but that's where we are today. So again, the things that we talk about with self-assembling channels which worry a lot of people, you know, I'm after the best screen or the best available screen, not the best screen. There's a mindset change there. Cost versus creativity and technology. So there's a cost argument versus creativity. The argument being, if a person does it, it's always going to be good. If a machine does it, how close is it? Chances are pretty good, especially with today's technology. And then the cost of that. So cost versus creativity versus technology. And ultimately, what do I want? I just want a better experience. If I like a certain player in a certain game, just send me the clips for that player. You know, that's what I'm after. And that's what we're trying to do. So contextual vision to whoever wants it. We call it, well, IBM I think actually called it originally NORA, non-obvious relationship awareness. Came out of Vegas originally, out of the casinos. We do all this using non-obvious relationship awareness. Why would we do that? It basically gives us the best way to find insight. But again, it's a business. Why are we trying to do these things? Realistically, technology is changing very, very quickly. And the problem is that people like me have the risk of sending businesses broke because we're always looking for the new thing. We want to change, we want to augment, we want to do things better. But we still need a return on our investment. We need to measure what we're doing. We need the controls. Got to have a lot of controls, especially in the software-defined network. So what I look up here is basically a way to measure success from a business point of view, to stop technology people like me spending in the wrong places, to keep me business aligned. So what we have here is I need to improve company performance. That's my big thing. I can manage costs, which is all the traditional things that we normally do, CapEx, OpEx, those sorts of things. It's not much fun, but it's what we do. But then on the other side, I've got the chance to increase revenue, and I can do that by managing demand. I can increase demand. I can do demand analysis, scheduling, windowing. Basically, instead of building a really big platform, what I can do is use the data to basically change my SLAs. So I'm delivering just in time, not over-delivering, not under-delivering. I can window, I can do all sorts of things. I can do customer segmentation. I can better target what people are doing or what they require. I can see when old devices are falling off the network and what's coming up new. These are things that are actually able to be measured, and you can use them to drive forward. Now, the only way for us to do this is to have this spine. Without the spine in the middle, I actually can't measure any of these things real time. And if I'm not doing it real time, it's really hard to have story-based production, because really, again, I'm trying to target the best available screen. So when I'm on the bus with my phone and I want my content, that's where I want to get you. And I want it to be a good experience, targeted with what you need. So it must be driven by data. So the only way to do that comes back to the spine and leaf analogy of we have the application network. So we're using that to basically bring in all our information. That is the one key. It's the nervous system that drives everything. If you take that away, I have lots of disparate data sets working independently, and I can't deliver to the devices that I need to deliver to. And most importantly, I can't then come back and show any business benefit because everything is disparate. I need to get back to one flow, one application network where I have that spine, that nervous system in the middle, whereby everything follows off that. And once you've created it, you start adding more and more data to create it and to balance it out, to tune it and make it more efficient. Ultimately, you're chasing efficiency in one way or innovation, and sometimes they can be the same thing. And for every use case, every change we made, every idea or design discussion, the idea was to come back and tick as many boxes as we could to make sure that we were very, very business aligned. Otherwise, we could go off on a tech fest. So business alignment comes back to a very nice chart with real-time information that's tangible and measurable. Application network is the way to go. Thank you.